Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia, and I'm so happy that you guys are here today with me. It is a Sunday night, and I am here to talk about today Blueface and Christian rock. And to help me talk about their tumultuous relationship, I have my dear friend Dr. Chris on. Let me bring her on and add her to the stage. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Dr. Alicia?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good, Dr. Chris. And Dr. Chris is my old time, I'm gonna say colleague today, my old time friend. And I've known you since I was like, oh gosh, in college days when we were at Indiana University and we were studying human behavior, why people do what they do. And we've dedicated our whole adult life. I can honestly say my entire adult life, I've dedicated to understanding why people do what they do, trying to understand relationships. Not that I always get it right in my own relationships. And, when you know somebody from college, boy, we've been with each other through ups and downs when it comes to relationships. And we've been in relationships that were good and relationships that were less than ideal. So I really love the fact that we have life experience, but we've also have experience in looking at relationships and why people do what they do and why people fall in love with who they fall in love with. And I mean, I really do think this is such a good topic to discuss today. And as an illustration, I think what we're going to talk about is all of the continuous controversy and toxic behaviors that we're seeing between two very high profile individuals. Blueface, what's his last name? I don't even know his last name, but I think it's Blueface because he connects with a certain gang group. But anyway, Blueface and also his ongoing relationship with Christian Rock. And if you don't know, Christian Rock and Blueface, they do have a reality show. Did you know about that? They have a reality
Yeah.
show that, to me, when I look at this reality show, and I haven't seen every single episode, I've seen clips of it, but it reminds me of like a
Same.
modern day, uh, almost like what was going on with Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. But there's also like an element of um, what good there's like a there was a movie that came out where it was just two people who would go around and they would be like on this, they were so deeply in love with each other and they were so volatile and so hostile they'd go around and start killing people. Not that Blueface and Christian would kill people, but it was a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie. Maybe someone in the chat will give us the movie. But there was this movie of this like crate, they were together. What was the name of this movie? I can't remember. I'm gonna look it up. I'll look it up and talk about the name of the movie. But they just remind me of this like wild sort of couple. And when you watch their reality show, it's almost like it just sucks you in. It's intriguing because you're watching all these patterns and these behaviors back and forth with each other. And in some sense, it's just madness that you see going on. But at the end of it all, you do see a real deep love that you see between the two of them, in the midst of they get triggered and just start lashing out at each other. So, anyway, what do you have to say about this
Mhm.
relationship while I think of the name of this movie?
Um, I have to say, I am rooting for Chrisean. I am rooting for Chrisean. I was at some point, as I would start to see her name come up, and I think one of my first times really recognizing or realizing who she was, it was in the news because her and Blueface were like getting physical with each other in public. Um, but I will tell you, Krishan, she got some real good features or characteristics. She's a strong woman, let me tell you. I think you probably saw she has a pretty rough background. She's been through quite a lot when she was growing up. But she went to California for school on the other coast, on an athletic scholarship. And did you know that she was in a I forget the name of the show, but it was one of those athletic shows that we be seeing, like 8 o'clock at night, 8:30 at night. And she won. She won 10 bands.
Wow. So
Uh,
that tells you, first of all, that's very inspiring because she has a background where it was very, I mean, lots of trauma, lots of issues in her background, but she didn't let that stop her. And I think that's amazing that she was able to go to college. I mean, there are people who come from very cushion background and they are never able to go to college. So that speaks to something in her that's really amazing. And not only that, I think she was a track star too in college, is what I read about her background. And so
I
that
think that
tells
was
you
it.
there's a force
Hmm.
in her that says that she can overcome something. But also for Blueface, he also was a athlete. He was a star athlete. He got a scholarship
Oh,
as
was
a
he?
football, not only a football scholarship, but it was as a quarterback. I mean, the quarterback is a very it's a very interesting position to play on the field. It's not like he was, tackling people or he was catching the ball. I mean, the quarterback is kind of the mastermind of the entire
Right,
field. So the quarterback is not for dummies. So we have
right.
two people who get together who aren't
No,
stupid, at the least bit. And
no.
they're athletic and they have a lot going for themselves. And for her to reach the top of a reality show, I mean, that speaks to like her desire. And so I just think that the two of them have so many redeeming factors about them. And I think because I was listening to some of their interviews and how they interact with each other, when they're nice and calm, and when their emotions aren't flying off the off the hammer, when they're not triggering each other, that really
Right,
there are really some positive things that
right.
happen between the two of them. It just gets to the point where conflict, the inevitable conflict happens between them. And then everything just kind of falls apart and they don't have the ability, or they haven't quite mastered the ability. And a lot of us haven't mastered the ability to be able to keep yourself together in order to have really good conflict resolution. Because it's just unbelievable watching videos of them just out and out fighting each other in the middle of the street. Have you seen any of those videos, Chris? Can you hear me? Or is there a lag? I don't know if anyone can. You hear me, Chris? Can you hear?
Yeah, you're coming in and out.
Oh, am I? Okay. Is there a little
You're
bit of a
coming in and
lag?
out.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if
Did
it's
you
on
hear
my
what I said?
end, but you were breaking up.
Oh, was I? Okay. I was talking
I heard
about the
part of
fact
it.
that
Can you please repeat it?
okay, I was talking about the fact that when they are doing well, when they are doing well and they seem to be together and connected with each other, everything seems to be going fantastic. Like they're all in love with each other, they're together forever. And then as soon as someone gets triggered and their emotions just start going all over the place, it's like they are not able to contain themselves and it unravels to a place of physical abuse between the two of them. So I wanted you to comment on that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of sad because I wonder, like, however they got there, um, their their immediate defense mechanism tends to be fight instead of flight, and tends to be more physical than verbal, than using words. But even when they were using words, they were pretty aggressive towards each other. Um, and you're right, like, when things are going well, and I think a lot of us, I know myself, I can relate to that. When things are going well, it looks good, things are smooth, but clearly they each knew how to trigger each other. And I think that's not actually that uncommon in relationships. As we
Mhm.
become more intimate with people, we begin to know each other better. We know that button or those buttons. So I don't know, if that's kind of what happened. Once I get triggered, now I'm going to push your buttons. And so he's like, well, you're pushing my buttons, I'm going to push your buttons back. And then next thing you know, they're like fighting in public, beating each other up. And that was really, really difficult to watch. I just don't. it's hard to ever imagine that when people in a relationship get to the point of actually put their hands on each other, um, it, it's hard to see if, you can retrieve that and kind of move backwards to a level of respect where that's not occurring.
Yeah, I mean, because once it gets into physical violence, like how can you forget that? Like you can't take that out of your head. It's almost like I now know how far you're willing to go. I now know what your limit is, and now that I know that you're capable of doing such a thing, how do I forget about that? Like I can't. It's very difficult to move past it and forget about that. And like for me, I just think that it's just so hard because of their on again off again relationship, and we're just watching the whole thing kind of unravel live. Like it is nothing for them to just get on TikTok or get on Instagram or whatever and just live stream full
It
on crying, and the level of transparency. And these people, when they are like in their moment, they don't care. It's like they don't care if the cameras are on them. They don't care if people are commenting. They want it live and in person. And I don't know, like parts of me is just like, we as the public should not be seeing that much of your intimate space. And another part of me is just, I just can't believe people can be so transparent and not even think about the fact that their children at some day can grow up and watch this. So,
exactly.
watch their parents just kind of unravel and lose it. There's no shame at all in a lot of their behaviors that I'm seeing. What do you have to say to that?
I think like, well, one thing, it doesn't surprise me with their age range maybe, and just being young adults who grew up in the world of technology and social media. It may be something that they're overlooking or not thinking about. And at the same time, it's funny because as I was listening to it, them fighting in public, it's like you kind of like this. And it also makes me think of like, I come from a big family, and when we have family members, couples in our family arguing in front of people, some people want to scatter. We're not trying to hear it, see it, know it, and then other people are like this. And so, I can't help in some way to think that some of this is exacerbated by the fact that they are in public and in social media. You know, um, I can't help but think, I assume for both of them, but especially for Chrisean having the kind of negativity that's coming at her, while she's pregnant, trying to have, grow this baby, because of the choices that they made. I mean, they made that whole reality show on their relationship. People were tuning in. We wanted to see.
Yeah, and not only did they fight each other on that reality show, but they were fighting each other's family members. And I mean, having knockdown, drag out fights with their family members. And then when it all was said and done, they're back together dating and still having, and you're not realizing that, first of all, at this point, there's children involved. So how is that going to look on Christmas and during the birthdays and
Right.
graduation? It's like not thinking long term about the effect that this has on the entire family dynamic. And I mean, there's just when the
Exactly.
emotions and tempers are flying, I mean, it's going to be really hard. And at the end of the day, they end up back together, all nicely back together in their relationship. What do you have to say to that in turn? Chris, are you with us? Hey, are you with us? Can you
I
hear me?
am. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can see you. I don't know if we have connection
I
issues.
can.
Okay.
Okay. You can't hear
Yeah,
me?
I can
You
hear
can't hear
you.
me?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
I hope she sticks to her guns. Her recent um, things on Instagram is kind of alluding to the fact that the fact that she talking about it, she's, she's learned in terms of those were choices that she realized she made and put her in the situation that now when she looks back, she don't want to be in that situation no more.
Oh,
I'm here for it. I hope that the baby, the whole experience of her being pregnant and now birthing her baby boy, I think that's bringing out the mama bear in her, and she's a lot more protective. Which, Alicia, that's not too far from what we've learned in our field. Sometimes we may not have enough self-esteem, strength, whatever you may call it, to protect ourselves, but we will protect our kids. And that's what I like seeing. It seems like she's taken a kind of a turn because now it's not just protecting herself, it's protecting that baby boy. And that is to me the saddest part of all this. Like, people can make their choices, and everybody's different. Maybe they're comfortable with the public, knowing and being in their business and seeing how they argue. But my heart does go to those children because it's yes, absolutely, they're gonna see it later. It's something that will probably exist that later on when their children get older, they'll be able to look it up. But also it makes me wonder, because if this is what we're seeing in the videos, is this the kind of environment, one that's full of yelling and negativity and all of that? Is that what these kids are growing up in? And that's not healthy, because we learn how to be in relationships. I mean, from the get-go, kids observe, they're watching us. And if they learn from the very beginning and from a very young age that conflict is addressed by hitting somebody, that a negative environment full of yelling and animosity is normal, that's going to affect them as they grow. It's going to affect their own worldview.
yeah, I noticed. I think in Chrisean, she's very interesting. I'm going to pay attention to her in the upcoming weeks and years just to see how she kind of makes sense of everything. Because what I see from her is this internal struggle. Like, I feel like she's got one foot into drinking, drugs, and all of this sort of lifestyle that is her way of coping with all of the internal things happening with her, because she could probably use some good therapy and some interventions, right? So I see her one foot there. And then I see another foot into this world where it's very religious, where she's taking very seriously her role as a mother. I also see where she is trying to break away from this person who she knows is not good for her, trying to break away from her. And we know from relationships, even toxic relationships like theirs. I mean, I think they even, like, I've seen interviews with them and they even say, yeah, our relationship is extremely toxic. So that's using their words. They're identifying themselves as toxic, but it takes up to 7, sometimes 8, 9 times for a person to try to leave a toxic relationship before they're actually successful in doing so. So there's a pull with her. She wants to pull into this, I'm going to be holy and I'm going to move to this religion. And then there's another side of her when you see her at the award show, pregnant, twerking on the stage, pregnant, doing all of these things. Like, I'm very curious as to what side she chooses to pick and how that's going to have an effect on her child, and whether she's going to get back with Blueface. It looks like maybe she might, get back in a relationship with him. And, it's very difficult when you're the family members, and you could tell her family members are all Chrisean, right? They all want her to do well. And I could tell, like, if she gets back with him, the family members they can't turn their back on her. I mean, they really need to still be a support system for her, as hard as it is. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah. No, I love, that's beautiful, because one of the things I was thinking about was that incident where Chrisean and Blueface went to Baltimore and they were meeting her family, and that stuff popped off.
What happened? Tell us what happened.
Well, the big grand headline at the end was, Blueface punched out her dad.
Okay.
But it was I think it was very triggering. You could see it sometimes. Chrisean, I think it was very triggering for her at times. She's like, sometimes she's by his Blueface's side. Sometimes she's behind him. Sometimes she got in front of him to protect her, Blueface from her family. She had a lot of family members there. And, you can almost see that it was going to quickly escalate because people were not listening to each other. Voices were being raised. People were not seeing eye to eye. And I'm just going to be straight. Blueface is a little pompous. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can imagine someone from an older generation and this little pompous punk coming at you. So eventually something happened, and he Blueface just got around. They were separated, kind of separated. And all of a sudden, Blueface kind of ran around. He was quick, got him, got the dad, and then, of course, Chrisean's family started to come after Blueface. But at that point, I think their security stepped in because they were filming. There were people there filming for their show. So security intervened. I think even the hotels came out. The hotel staff might have come out and was trying to break it all up. But it did not go well at all. And the thing is that afterwards, Chrisean revealed some very interesting kind of private trauma that she had been through because of her dad. So I felt like she herself had to, kind of negotiate in her mind what just went down, because yes, that is her family, but Blueface was, especially at the time, was her man. And then you have this physical altercation between one side and the other. Her posting afterwards seemed to be more supporting Blueface because she revealed that her dad was pretty abusive, particularly to her mother. She referred to her dad taking her out to the woods and tying her up because she would scream too loud when he would beat her at home. It's a very, this is that is what Chrisean was, had posted and let everybody know about. And, I can't blame her. That's a very complex situation. I don't think anybody wants to be in a situation where their man is beating on their dad, or dad is beating on their man. We don't want that, but I think this even went further. There's a lot of complexity, I think, that Chrisean has to address in terms of her previous, her history and how she grew up, and some of her family members that were really abusive to her.
Oh God. Okay, so basically what you have is the perfect relationship between two individuals who have PTSD. And I really do think that even though Chrisean, she's, and I'm not diagnosing anybody, but she has behaviors, behaviors that we all can see visually. It fits neatly into someone with PTSD. And I think that we see her struggle with this. And, we see her with the baby just crying online. And you think about, postpartum depression and things that are happening in that nature. And then to see that her man is back with the baby's mama, this other lady, he was in a relationship when, they're high school sweethearts.
I did see that.
Yeah. So what's her name? Alexis?
Jaden Alexis. Jaden Alexis.
Yeah, so they're apparently back together. Who knows how long that's gonna last? But yeah, it speaks to Chrisean's. She seemed to have been very possessive over him, and was just very concerned and worried about his fidelity to her, and just to even thought of him, which is exactly what he does, the being with another woman just kind of really sets her off. And from what I could see, he almost kind of felt really good about his ability to control her in that way. He knows all he has to do is just, even if it ain't even happening, just pretend he's interested in someone else, or some other woman is interested in him, and he is, he's returning the flirtatiousness and returning some of that it would just totally set her off. And that was his way of absolutely manipulating her. I don't want to say that he is, I can't say he's narcissistic, but he has some traits. He's got traits of narcissistic behavior just based on what we all can see visually.
Yeah, I would agree. And his behavior doesn't seem to include any well, I would say very minimal to no respect for women.
Yeah.
Um, we see him, he's constantly popping back and forth between his first baby mama and Chrisean. Um, you know, I, the back and forth would, I think, would make anyone crazy, regardless of their gender.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then on top of it, he was just almost flaunting in front of her that he's got all these other women and that he can cheat whenever he wants. And then it was really interesting to me because Chrisean said, "Bet I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go do me. Not necessarily that, but I'm gonna go do me." And he didn't like it. He didn't like it. And to be honest, I thought he sounded real ignorant when he got on social media talking about, oh, you want me too, I'll give you me too. Talking about, because he didn't, that was his way, I felt like, of trying to control Chrisean again and rein her in, and Chrisean was not having it.
Yeah, I think we've been talking for a half hour, Chris, and I know that I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to welcome everybody. I see a bunch of people in here, and I see someone, too sweet 1111 says, that's the low self-esteem for him and for her on some things. I mean, she's got some self-esteem issues too, and he for sure has some self-esteem issues. And then Unchained Girl says he's a narcissist and women is his supply. When the benefits they provide run out, he'll run to the next. Chrisean keeps
Like
him
we're
relevant.
objects. We are objects.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, those are some comments. Welcome, Unchained Girl. I'm supposed to welcome everybody. Wada, who else is in here? Anybody in the chat, say hello to us. I'm gonna say hello to people. I'm gonna type in
Yes.
hello, everyone. Okay, hello. So, what else? Chrisean definitely pulls heartstrings, and most want to see her win. Yeah, I think I don't want to take sides in this because we don't really know. We don't know for sure what's going on, but there's something about her, like she gets so emotional and she starts crying and she's like, I really want what's best for my child. And it's something about how she displays like the pain that she's going through. And it's like when you hear her speak, anybody that's ever been in pain, you're just sitting there like, girl, you want to cry with her. Like you really get sucked in. She has this like ability to be
Absolutely.
like totally transparent, where it's like she don't care that the camera's on, she don't care what people think about her. She is going to go live and she is going to give it to you really how she's feeling deep inside, and her most painful memories and painful experiences. I don't know how she does it, but to put it all out there like that definitely pulls at your heartstrings. So too sweet. I agree with that comment because I just watching her, it makes me want to take sides with her. And then meanwhile, you kind of see Blueface kind of on his sort of persona that he displays. It's almost like he's aloof. Like he doesn't care about what anyone else thinks about him. He doesn't really care. He'll just say and do whatever. And even if it hurts her feelings, he's not going to hold back. There's not going to be no restraint from him. So I don't want to take a side, but I do. She does pull at my heartstrings. What do you have to say to that?
Oh, I am the same way. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to take sides, but I am definitely team Chrisean. I love seeing her transformation.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful that we as, she put it out there so that we really could see her genuine struggle. And she took accountability. She said, yes, I did this, but I'm not going to do it for long. And I'm going to get better. So she honestly, I feel like that's what we like to see in people. That's what we hope to do for ourselves, to take accountability, no matter how bad it is, no matter what that mistake was, but recognize it for what it is, call it a lesson learned or approach it like a lesson learned, and then move forward in a healthier way. And that's what I'm starting to see with Chrisean. So I'm rooting for her. I am definitely rooting for her. And I do feel like, yes, Blueface is being aloof. And a
Yeah.
lot of it, I'm wondering how much of that is show for social media for the public.
You know what?
How
I
much
bet
is
you it's not show. I really get the sense because he talked about how he witnessed his mother fight. He witnessed his mother fighting. He said every man she's ever been with, he's fought them. Like, so that is what he has grown up watching.
wow.
And yes, thank you, Plumtacular. Natural Born Killers. Have you seen that movie? I knew somebody would identify. Have you seen that movie, Chris? Natural Born Killers? I
Natural
think her
born
name was.
killers.
Have you seen that movie? The two of them
The movie
together?
was
It's
crazy.
wild and crazy. Not to say that I think, Blueface and Chrisean would actually kill people. I'm not trying to say that. But I'm trying to say, like, something about their wild, crazy love just reminds me of Mallory. I think that was his name. Her name was Mallory or whatever. There's an element to that just reminds me of that. Thank you. Thank you, Plumtacular. Yeah, there's something about them. It's like a mix between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. So
They're definitely
anyway,
firecrackers. I think they have that dynamic where they not even trying, they push each other's buttons. Uh, and I think that it's one of those things where maybe it could be, maybe if there wasn't, if they didn't have the trauma that they've had before, it could be a firecracking, dynamic that progresses and moves up and is more healthy. But unfortunately, I think it's come to the point where it's really about pushing each other's buttons. They just don't seem to be seeing eye to eye. Blueface doesn't seem to be trying to father this baby. I mean, that
yeah.
would be one common goal that they could have. In fact, he's been spending his time on social media talking about taking her baby away or just wait until she messes up so he can take the baby away, only to give it to his other baby mama. But
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's so interesting that he would wish that on her when actuality it was Child Protective Services knocking on his door because of the things that he recorded himself saying, bringing a stripper to the house and forcing his son to look at strippers. Like, and then the fact that he was totally uncomfortable with it, which is appropriate for a child to be uncomfortable with that type of information. But the fact that he was uncomfortable with it, he's going to call him gay, just because a little child, what was he, 5 years old, felt uncomfortable with things that
he's
would be
yeah
uncomfortable. Like, so, I mean, I think
yes.
CPS is going to have, I don't wish this on them, but I wouldn't be surprised if CPS would be visiting. And I really do, I mean, in whatever form or fashion, but I think that maybe it's not a bad thing if some authority got involved, because think about it this way. When you have someone that when you can't get yourself together, you can't get your mental health together, okay, and you bring a child into this world, children are a protective group of people. And it's one thing if you're going to go out and do all sorts of crazy stuff, look at strippers, drinking, alcohol, all of these things. But when
Right.
you have the responsibility of being the primary caretaker to a child, a minor, and you're smart enough or not smart enough to know that you shouldn't be recording this information and putting this out
Exactly.
there. So if everything is out in the open, what's going to happen is the authorities are going to watch this. It is a crime to put a child in danger, and it should be a crime to put a child in danger psychologically, mentally, physically, to put a
Absolutely.
child in danger. And the thing is that you can be toxic with yourself as an adult, because if you're over 18 and you're an adult, you're responsible for your own behavior. But as soon as you bring a child into this world and you abuse that child in any way, psychologically, emotionally, physically, it's illegal and you will be dealt with. So, I mean, I think if
Absolutely.
and we know Chrisean is doing some things to try to grow up. because she has this baby. But if
Yeah.
Blueface doesn't
It,
grow up,
yeah.
he's gonna pay a visit from from people. There's systems in place. I don't want to wish that on anybody, but there are
No.
systems in place designed to take care of people who don't know how to parent in a way
Right.
that's harmful. But
Right.
anyway, go ahead. I don't want to keep going, but
Oh no, I absolutely agree with you. Let's protect the children. If you're, Blueface, he can go have his lifestyle and do all of that. But once you start bringing the children into it, and you have this little boy that when you watch this interaction, at minimum, he's being told being gay is bad. That's what he's picking up. The way he's being asked, "Are you gay, son? Are you gay, son?" Well, he's reading between the lines, and that's the thing about children. They read between the lines because their vocabulary is still building themselves.
yes,
They pick up more than most adults a lot of times at that age, especially. And so, you're right. And then clearly when I watch that interaction, it's so brief but so packed with messages or signs that is being given to his son. For example, don't run away from that, and no, you shouldn't be talking. You might be uncomfortable, but don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, son. You should be out here. Why aren't you celebrating? So it's amazing because just like you said, if you don't even know, if you don't even have the wherewithal that you shouldn't do that, let alone do it and then put it on social media for everybody to see. In a way, you're right. It's good he did, because maybe there's some intervention that can happen with CPS and maybe course correct that,
hmm
because it did appear even the mother was there and she was pretty much involved in taking part of it. She knew it was happening. She was in the house, and it's didn't seem to matter.
yeah.
So
And I don't know, like, people, I just know people who worked in child welfare, who worked in child protective services. The last thing you want to do is take a child away from their parents. Like, you don't want to do that. But at the same time, you don't want false positives. You don't want to take a child away and then they really would have been better off there. But then again, you don't want any false negatives, so you don't.
exactly.
And if something tragic happens, first thing they're going to do is blame the social worker for doing the visit and not seeing what was there. So it makes people really have to make a judgment call on what to do. And what I'm hoping would happen is that they would get the help that they need, because he definitely, on some sense, when I see somebody put something out there extremely toxic and extremely damaging, when I see people put things out there and in a sense, I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is deranged, just the judgment in me, labels it that way. I see that as a call for help. It's a cry for
Exactly.
help. It's like
Exactly.
it's like they know that that's not right, but it's just
Right.
like it's even both of them on some level allowed those cameras into their life and allowed them to have this reality show, because it was just like, help me. I
Right.
need help. And it's not a conscious things that people do. I think it's unconscious. It's an unconscious attempt to ask
Mhm.
for help. They're almost begging to be helped in a sense. And,
Exactly.
to have everything in your life recorded and televised, even the most dear moments of, I wouldn't even imagine giving birth and going live on social media as I'm giving birth. Like, if that's not a cry for help, I don't know what is. And I'm just to think about Christian Rock. I see it in her that she wants to do better.
Hmm.
The problem is that if people like her, and I don't know her, like, I'm not her therapist, this is not therapy, but when people have issues and they understand that there is a problem and they want to change, that is not enough to make change happen. You have to do the work to deal with your issues, or what's going to happen is that she's going to get triggered and she's going to revert back to her old behavior. And
Yes.
if there's not a professional there, and maybe she could do it on her own, but you can't pray your way to good mental health. It doesn't
No.
work that way. You cannot pray
No.
your way to good mental health. You can pray
Unfortunately.
for some help, and help is available for you, but it takes tools and actual people. One, it's almost
Yeah.
like the theory of change behavior, where it's like pre-contemplative, contemplative, and you
Yes.
actually take change. I can't remember the whole thing. I'm teaching it now this
Yes.
semester to my students
Oh,
because
are you?
it's like fresh in my head a little bit. But when you go through the stages of change,
Yes.
it's like she's at this contemplative stage, even
Yes.
almost to the stage, above it, where she actually wants to do something. The
Ready? Yep.
problem is that she won't be able to really have lasting change until she puts it in her conscious head to look at her thoughts, her behaviors, her feelings, to regulate her emotions. It's easy to say, I'm changed, when you're nice and calm. But when someone
Absolutely.
pisses you off and you're reactive, you're not going to change.
Right.
So I
Right.
feel for her, the struggle in her, and I
Yeah.
really hope that she could recognize this, or maybe there's people around her that could recognize what's happening in her and get her some tangible help. God wants her to be the best person she can be, but
Yeah.
God also wants you to go see a professional to help
Right.
you be the person you want to be. I don't think Blueface is there yet, but
Oh no.
maybe it will come. Blueface is not as developed in that way, but whatever
No.
it is, both of them are going to need some interventions. Anyway,
Absolutely.
I've
Absolutely.
talked I've talked quite a bit about that, but go ahead.
Oh no, no, I'm right there for with you and agree wholeheartedly. No, Blueface isn't there, and maybe that's a little bit of what we see with developmental issues. Usually, we see women in their early 20s maturing faster than the men in their early 20s. So it's not too much of a surprise that she may be further along on this path. um, and I really hope that it's such a good sign to see the positivity, or the some of the little changes she's made, that have been on the positive side. The I thought that it was a good exercise of her boundaries, when she did decide to have the birth of the baby
Yeah.
and opt to, just only include those people that love her. And maybe in her mind, to some degree, she has a lot of fans out there. There are a lot of us out here that are rooting for her.
Yeah.
And maybe that was her another way for her to bring support into that critical time for her in the labor room, to know, sharing it with her fans. Maybe that was one way that she was feeling love. However it works for her and whatever it looks like for her, I really do hope that not only that she goes into therapy, but she looks into other resources to create that nice, supportive bubble around her,
Hmm.
to help, flourish and grow, almost like if she was a plant, getting that real good rich soil with that miracle grow and that fertilizer, to just give her all of those things that are just going to promote her or help her progress or facilitate that progression. Because as we know, this it's never easy. It's not easy, especially when it comes to relationships and emotions and the heart. Um, so I agree with you, Alicia. And I again, therapy. It would be nice if we could pray our way to mental health. But unfortunately, I think it's more along the lines of the saying I've heard, that God helps those who help themselves. I think God, can help put things in her path and
Yes.
in her reach to
Yes.
help her do the good work. But you're right, she's unfortunately got to walk through that path. No one else can do it for her, including God. She's
Mhm.
got, but I think when she comes out on the other end of that path, like we've seen with other clients, they're stronger, they're more positive, they're better. Their mental health outlook is even, our prognosis is exponentially better. So again, I'm rooting for her, and I think if she does the work, she can get through this
Yeah.
and address some of that long time drama, because she doesn't, nor does anyone, but um we should not be held or held back in our life because of trauma that had been happened to us when we're children. We didn't create that trauma. We
Mhm.
didn't ask for that trauma. We didn't ask to be born necessarily. And so, it's really, I find it unfair when you see people who spend a lot, if not all of their lifetime, trying to work around those demons from the trauma from their childhood.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so important for her to really dig into that. And, she's got to also know that when you have a baby with somebody, you're connected to them forever. Like it doesn't go away. So it's not like she can not see Blueface ever. I mean, the baby's gonna have Christmas and holidays and all of these occasions where she has to see him. And and I mean, you can't control what another does or what the other parent does. You can only control what
Right.
you do. But I really do hope that on some level, Blueface starts to grow up. I mean, I think, don't get me wrong, Christian Rock needs to grow up too, and it looks like she's taking the steps of evolving and growing up. She at least has the ability to reflect.
Yeah.
Having the ability to reflect on your behavior is a big thing.
Oh,
That's
yes.
one thing I try to do in therapy. Like, tell me what you think about it. Like, I'm always trying to get the other person to reflect on their behavior and what meaning they make out of it. So, the fact that she can do that is really helpful, but he also needs to do that too.
Yes.
And, he's got several children at this point, I think three children at this point, and he's got two women to navigate. So he's 26 years old and he's already, dealing with some grown up things. And it's not even until you're 27 that the left and right side of your brain pulls
Connect.
together. So, he's got some time. It's never too late. It's never too late for him. It's never too late for her, of course. And if anybody can get you geared up to make some lasting changes, hopefully a child will. And if not, there's
Yeah.
authorities in place that'll make sure. So, last
Absolutely.
words from you, Chris. Oh my goodness, it's been almost an hour. I'm so
Goes so fast.
I'm so excited. We're gonna talk about this again, Chris. This is really kind of
Absolutely.
fun. And okay, so last parting words from you, Chris.
Um, you know, I'm here for it. I'm gonna keep hope alive for Chrisean and Blueface too. I feel like on the ladder on Blueface, we gotta have a little more patience. But yeah, I'm really pulling for her. I hope that she continues to practice and exercise boundaries that are healthier for her. um, I really hope to see her continue to progress and hopefully not get hooked and drugged down by Blueface or anybody else, for that matter.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think that with Blueface, on some level, he knows what he's doing isn't right. And I think, it could be that it could take something, drastic
Drastic.
as a visit from authorities to be able to kind of push him on the straight and narrow. And I think, like with all of us, no matter what, and I think you talked about that, no matter what in your past that has happened, there's a sustaining force in all of us that makes
That's
us
right.
want to do better. I mean, it really is the God in us that makes us
Yeah.
want to achieve
Yeah.
everything that we could ever hope for. The God in us always wants us to be better than where we were yesterday. And when you sit and listen to that and pay attention to that, it can work for you. So I think it can work for them. I, you know,
Absolutely.
I'm going to be hopeful. If anything, I'm not going to be unhopeful. I'm going to be hopeful for the both of them that they're able to pull it together and that this cute little baby, it's the most cutest, is the cute, adorable little baby. In
Yes.
order for that to happen. So thank you, Chris, for joining me, my longtime friend. Back
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for joining me, my longtime friend back in 1993. What?
Don't age
Gotta
us.
name it. We gotta name it from a long time ago. That's a long time ago.
You're aging us, Alicia.
We're older than we look, I think.
Thank God.
Yeah. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you for paying attention and for listening to us. Queen of Weaves. Queen of Weaves. Okay. Elaine, thank you. Unchained Girl. Unchained Girl got some great comments in here. So anyway, I'll see you. We'll come up with another topic for next week. And I'll see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.